Hi, I'm Bob Tabor with Developer University. For more of my training videos for beginners, please visit me at devu.com. Next, we'll talk about how code files are organized into projects and solutions and where they're stored on your hard drive, how to open up a project that you previously closed, how to open up one of the code files that I'll supply or that some friend might give you that you can download in a zip file, how to unzip it, put it into a directory, open it up, and so on. All right. So whenever we created a new console project in one of the previous lessons, the module1.vb file automatically opened up into this main area inside of Visual Studio. And that's one of the things that project templates do for us. They provide a great starting point for the type of application that we want to build, including files, boilerplate code. So it gave us this module 1, sub, main, and sub, and module. Gives a little boilerplate code. And then also it added some settings. We don't see them right here, but there are some settings that are stored here in this app config and in this hello world file that you see listed here in the Solution Explorer, and some other resources depending on the type of template that we choose. All right. So this little tab here at the top, in my version of Visual Studio, it's a dark blue tab. It really depends on the colors you have selected. And again, your version of Visual Studio might show it a little bit different than mine. But at any rate, it indicates which file we're currently working on here inside of the main area. If we were to add an additional file to our project, there are a couple of different ways to do that. We could open up multiple files here and have them all open at the same time, but only view one at a time. We'll look at some maybe window management accidentally as we go through this course, and you'll see. But before, again, a more thorough explanation of how to utilize Visual Studio and get the most out of it, you'll want to watch an entire course just on the Visual Studio IDE itself, okay? But at any rate, that tab has a label inside of it, and it indicates which file we're currently working on. So our Hello World program right now only has one code file, like I said a moment ago, but as our applications become more complex, we're going to organize our code into potentially many files inside of the same project. Now, if you take a look over here, and I've already referenced it once, there's this window called the Solution Explorer that by default is kind of docked up in the upper right-hand corner of Visual Studio. And it basically has a tree-like representation, a tree-like view of the items in our project and how it's related to our solution. Now, as I said at the outset of this course, this is not intended to be a tour of Visual Studio. There are going to be other resources on Microsoft Virtual Academy that can help orient you to Visual Studio, but the Solution Explorer is the most important part of Visual Studio, in my humble opinion, next to the main area where we're actually going to type our code. Simply put, this Solution Explorer is our main navigational device to the other files and the settings that comprise our program. So as you can see here, we have a module1.vb. If I were to close this tab in the main area, by clicking the little X button off to the right-hand side, and there's nothing now in the main area, I could open that file back up by just finding it here in the Solution Explorer and then double-clicking it, and there you go. We're back into our module1.vb. So files and important settings are organized into projects, which are then compiled into a single .NET assembly. We'll talk more about compilation in .NET assemblies a little bit later in another video, okay? Furthermore, one or more projects are organized into solutions. So in many cases, as you're getting started, you're only going to have one project inside of one solution, okay? But as you build more complex applications over time, it's highly likely that you're going to manage multiple projects that are somehow related inside of the same umbrella called a solution. Again, the reason for that might not be obvious today at this moment, but as you continue learning about Visual Basic beyond this course, I think you're going to find that as you build more complex, business-oriented applications, this becomes a crucial code management strategy to put things in different projects. depending on the functionality and the role of that code inside of the larger software system that you're building. All right. Again, that's a topic for another day. Just for now, accept that there's this extra layer called a solution that owns projects, one or more projects. And trust me, it becomes more important as we move past the basics. But for the most part in this course, we're going to only concern ourselves with talking about projects. The big question at this point should be, where are all of these files actually stored on my local hard drive? I can see them here in the Solution Explorer, but where are they on my local computer? So whenever we created the Hello World project, and recall that we went to File, New Project, that opened up the New Project dialog, and we typed in the name of the project that we wanted to create. And then I also called your attention to the fact that that there's this location here, and that this would be by default where our code is actually saved. All right, so by default, it's going to put it in the current user's documents folder. So if you have multiple users on your system, then it's going to be whatever user you currently are logged in as. In my case, I only have one user on my computer, the Bob user, me, and Bob has a documents directory. And inside of that documents directory, there is a Visual Studio, and then in my case, 2015, it could be 2016, it could be 2050 if you're watching this, 35 years from now, okay. And then there's a subdirectory inside of that called projects. So this is where by default things will actually be stored. If we take a look at Windows Explorer, the File Explorer here in Windows, and let me resize this a little bit. Mine's going to look dramatically different from yours because I use this quick access feature quite a bit. But suppose, for example, that we're looking at the desktop here by default, and I've got a lot of junk on my desktop. Here I'm going to be able to look at the documents directory. All right, now sometimes this documents directory will show all of the documents, and sometimes it shows just a subset of documents. In this case, it's only showing a subset. I actually have quite a few more folders. But for our purposes right now, this will do. We see that there's this Visual Studio 2015 folder for my situation, for my case. Inside of that, then there are a couple of subdirectories. There's the project subdirectory. Now, again, let's just ignore this version of this and go back to the quick access where we're going to get to my documents directory. You'll see everything in documents. We'll go into Visual Studio 2015. Then we're going to go in, we see quite a few more folders. We'll go into projects, and there we are. There's the Hello World folder, all right? And as I add more projects, they're going to fill up this projects folder here. And it's important to note, whenever you create a new project, you can put it anywhere on your hard drive that you want. I just usually accept the default, at least to begin with, unless I'm very purposeful in what I'm trying to accomplish. Maybe I want to put it someplace else because I want to work in a team environment and we're all agreeing to put our code in a specific place or use a tool that really kind of pushes us, nudges us towards a different file structure. Be that as it may, we'll come back to that idea some other day. All right. So furthermore, you can open up a project that's saved anywhere on your computer. And to illustrate this, I wanted to give you, and I'm just going to shut down Visual Studio for now completely. I gave you this file. You should be able to find it wherever you're currently watching this video or wherever you originally downloaded the video from. There's also a file that should be available called example.zip, and it has a project inside of it. And so what I want to do is extract this to my hard drive. I'm just going to right click here and select Extract All. Pops open the Extract Compress Zip Folders dialog. And I'm actually not going to extract it to my desktop. I'm going to extract it to the root of my C drive. And then I'm going to click the Extract button. And it says, hey, there are actually some files with the same names. Unfortunately, this is due to the fact that I've gone through this example before. So let me do this. Let me cancel this out. Cancel this, cancel, cancel, cancel. Let's open this up. Let's delete. Let's find my local computer here. There we go. And I'm going to delete this folder. Okay, so now you can see this is all the junk on my folder, and I have a very, very messy hard drive. I'm going to right-click the example again and click Extract All. And here we're going to go and just say, I want to extract this project called example to my C:/drive. Extract it. And there we go. So now if we were to open this up and double click the example folder, you can view the contents inside of it. And you see inside of this another example folder and an example.sln file. So this second example folder actually contains the project. And this example.sln file is the solution file. This solution file is the same as the solution that we saw in the Solution Explorer. So a solution can contain one or more projects, and here the projects are going to be contained inside of subfolders. If we were to actually open up this .sln file, here I'm just going to open it with, and you can see I have the Notepad app already selected because I've made some changes in Windows. If you want to open it up with Notepad, you should choose another app. It'll give you this little dialog here, at least in Windows 8 and Windows 10. All right, so we're going to open with, and here you might see some options. Visual Studio is the preferred way to actually open up an SLN file. We don't want to change that. Therefore, if you do search through your list of apps and you're trying to look for Notepad, make sure you do not click this checkbox. Always use this app to open SLN files. You do not want to do that. You will hate me if you do that. All right. So select Notepad, but don't check that checkbox and click OK. And you can see that this is simply this solution file just simply has some settings related to versions and what's inside of a project, some global settings, some other information about configurations and so on. We don't want to make any changes in this file whatsoever. So just carefully close this. If it asks you to save any changes that you made, make sure you do not save those changes. All right. Otherwise, you're just going to need to delete it and start over again with a new zip file, extracting it. Okay. All right. So we've satisfied our curiosity, but what's inside of this project folder? Well, you can see that we have another file called example.vbproj. So this is the project file. And here I'm going to do the same sort of thing where I'm going to open this with, and I'm going to choose Notepad again, making sure not to select this, just to satisfy our curiosity. And here we see that this is an XML file that just has other settings related to this specific project. A lot of settings. We do not want to make any changes to this whatsoever. It just has information that's going to be used by the Visual Basic compiler to create an executable for our application, and also maybe some other things related to how we want our project organized and what we want visible in our application. I'm just going to close that. I do not want to make any changes to it. There are also then some subfolders inside of it. The same project folder. I think the most important thing we see here is this module1.vb file. So this is the code that I wrote for the example project. And if I wanted to open up and work on this project now, I have a couple of choices. I could either double click this example.vbproj from our file explorer, or I could double click the example.sln file to load it into Visual Studio. So just to show you that's usually how I open up the projects. Or the other thing that you can do is actually go to the File menu and select Open Project or Solution. Or if you've opened it recently, it might be in your list of recently opened projects and solutions, and you can navigate and find, for example, the Hello World project and open that back up into the Solution Explorer. Okay. Now, what I want to do is actually shut down Visual Studio one more time. Here I want to go into our Documents, Visual Studio 2015, Projects, Hello World. Then I want to go to the Hello World project inside of the solution folder, and I want to look at this bin directory. So bin is short for binary. It denotes that there's a binary executable output that will be added to this folder whenever we go through the compilation process. Whenever we hit the start button, it would actually create a debug version, compiled version of our application that can be run on our local desktop. All right, so compiling your code into a working application is really the end goal of writing source code. But I want to stop short of talking about that in detail and pick up this idea much later in the course. I think you're going to get a better appreciation for it once we get past some of the basics. So I'm going to stop right now, and I'm not going to show you what's inside of this debug folder. All I am going to do, though, is just talk about at a high level what we learned in this lesson related to the Solution Explorer, how it allows us to navigate through the code files associated with our project, how we're able to close down Visual Studio, but then open up our project again, either by navigating through the file system in the File Explorer, or by using one of the open menus in the File menu. So I can open a solution or project, or open something that I've opened recently in the past in order to open it back up and continue working on code that I have in the past. We talked about the file structure and that you can save your projects and solutions anywhere on your hard drive, but by default, it's going to put them in your current user's document / Visual Studio / project subdirectory so that it keeps them all nice and organized. I showed you how to extract out an example and put that somewhere on your hard drive so that you can then open it up into Visual Studio. So the source code that I give you and that I make available with this course, you can download it, extract it, and open it up and look at it in Visual Studio if you want to. All right, so hopefully that all made sense and you understand those relationships. Now let's continue on. And again, we're going to focus on just that little Hello World application, but you can see how that's branched off into so many conversations now that are vital to our fundamental understanding of what's going on as we build applications in Visual Basic. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.